like I feel at a loss. Like as I was watching it, I had a lot of thoughts, but now thinking about talking about everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah.
Worst movie I've seen in a long time.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just what the fuckery. Like, just straight. We literally turned the movie off 5 minutes ago.
Maybe.
Like.
Well, I feel like it's just so nonsensical that there are definitely images like the sausage finger thing.
I mean, hot dog fingers.
Well, right, because you can't say sausage fingers because of midgets, so you have to call them hot dog fingers, which is weird. But
also, like, the eroticism of said hot dog fingers was also weird. That was when you were, like, tuned out and, like...
Right, but there's also, like, the weird dildo thing that, yeah. So, I feel like... Here is my... Like, as I was watching it, what I was thinking.
Go for it.
The best way to describe this movie is that it is all about non-objectivism, or to trying to destroy objectivism.
Sure. I think it was straight LGBTQ nonsense.
Well, that's the whole point, is that there is no real reality. There's only your reality, and it gets to this idea of making decisions, but like it basically creates this idea of all things are equally good because all decisions are the same. Because I feel like there's this principle that the movie is based upon, like the science of the science fiction, is there's a theory that says that for every decision you make, you split reality.
Right. So yeah, so the basic... Okay, so yeah, so let's start with actual real science, because that's really the only real thing about this movie is the made-up science. But the basic premise is that there are no good or bad decisions. There are just decisions. And for every decision where you make a choice, you split reality.
Right.
And to take their, fake science even further, the mom, Evelyn, is the one person in the universe who has made enough decisions, because you can't even say controversial, because they're controversial implies good and bad, right? But she's made enough decisions and has enough potential paths that she has a limitless potential, basically. Like, she has limitless grandeur for grandeur. Yeah, she has limitless opportunities for grandeur. Limitless. There we go. Yeah. But conversely, then, because the mom, Evelyn, subjects her daughter to limitless criticism, the daughter basically goes off the rails and tries to consume the universe through a bagel.
I mean, like, here's the thing: is I feel like they have an everything bagel as this weird stand-in for a black hole, and I feel like this is the kind of physics where, like, so there's a couple of sayings that I feel like if you understand and like explain this entire movie away, because I feel like in order to say something like really, really stupid, or to do something really, really stupid, you have to be a certain level of smart. Sure.
And to try to conflate a multi-universe consuming black hole with an everything bagel is about as ridiculous gets.
But the idea is if you take a stupid person, like a truly dumb human being, like about an 80 IQ or so, right?
Sure.
That you can't convince them of too stupid shit, because they're struggling with reality, but the reality that they understand, they don't want to give up, because it took them a while to get there. So like boys and girls,
right?
Like, yes, I have a penis, and like the idea that like you're a girl, no, I have penis.
Right.
Like it's a solid concept because there's reality.
Right. It's a solid construct that cannot be altered.
Right. So, like, the idea that you can go to someone with Down syndrome and be like, hey, you take this job and we pay you, and there's, like, a this for that, and they're like they can understood. But like communism, it takes a high mind to like government planning and all the things.
Right. Well, that's the reason for propaganda. The
Right.
reason for propaganda is because you have to outsmart the smart, and you have to convince them of something that's so illogical that they really can't even explain why it's illogical.
There's so many different details that you get lost in the weeds.
Right.
And that's why I say to do something really stupid, you have to be really smart to think of it and to convince yourself of it. And then, even though it's a really dumb thing, you can kind of hold that over somebody else because you can conceptualize it, which feeds into your own ego.
Sure. Which is basically the premise of this entire movie.
Right.
Which is the daughter believes that she has been victimized by the mom to such a degree that she goes on a multi-universe revenge path because her mom, one, criticizes her, but two, doesn't accept that she's gay. Like, let's just, like, flat out bottom line. The bottom line is, this is an LGBTQ movie, and it's really my mommy doesn't love me.
Right.
My mommy doesn't love me because I'm gay, and my mommy criticizes me. And that then turns into just what the fuckery.
Right.
I mean, and that's not even getting into, like, the weirdness of the movie. Like, the statue up the butt kung fu fighting.
Right.
Like, that is not a, what is it? Like, that's a literal description.
Yes.
That's not a euphemism or a metaphor. That is a straight example of shit that's in this movie.
I'm going to steal this from somebody else, but the best proof I ever heard from God is this. For God is this. You have the Bible and all the things, and that's the problem with the Bible is you have to get into the Bible to understand the Bible to prove the Bible. So it's like if you take somebody who's like if you take somebody who's unfamiliar with the Bible and they're like, I heard that wasn't fake, and you're telling me that it's real, but but the Bible's long. So it's like, well, you want to sit down and spend the next 6 months to like figure this out? Like that's a large commitment. But like if you just want to prove that there's a God.
Sure.
There's only two options that we've kind of come up with, which is one that we have the Big Bang Theory and like space and all the things, or there's a creator. So the reason why you know that there's not is because if there's just science and evolution is real, then the universe is infinite.
Right.
So if you have infinite life. Like there is definitely aliens. And then if you're actually talking about infiniteness, like in the same idea of like you hear about like with statistics that like if you have 1 million monkeys for 1 million years, eventually somebody will come up with Shakespeare.
Sure.
That not only do you have every permutation of life, but you have every permutation of choice.
Sure. Which is what this movie is getting into.
Right, but I'm not talking about dimensionally. I'm talking about like the if you have an infinite number of planets with an infinite number of life, that what you end up with is that if evolution is real, then evolution happened in every permutation to mean that not only is there every kind of life, but there's things like, well, things have evolved just the way they did here to the exact degree that we did, and people made the exact same decisions except for a microcosm, or they're a second behind, or they're a year behind. Or, here's the really ridiculous one, that T-Rexes evolved as the dominant species, and one of them started a MAGA movement, and you have the Donald Trump T-Rex.
Sure.
And you know why, like everyone's rolling their eyes at that? Because we have a soul, and we know that that's bullshit.
Which this movie basically tries to prove. This movie actually legitimately shows worlds and universes where there are hot dog fingered humans because the one ape that had regular hot dog fingers was killed. Like, this again is not a euphemism. This is a literal scene in the movie.
But here's the problem with this is like if you really want to take science, if you had the hot dog fingered creatures killing off the like ambidextrous like finger creatures, you don't have the hot dog finger creatures creating civilization because they can't, because they don't have fingers.
Because they don't have fingers.
So like
which was funny. Did you notice this? This to me just cracked me up. Did you notice that the tax lady had a carpal tunnel bandage on her arm? So if you didn't notice, she has this carpal tunnel on her arm, and in the hot dog universe, it's on her ankle because they use their feet for everything. And I just thought that, I mean, from a detail standpoint, like, good job on details, but I thought that was hilarious, like, because their hands...
I checked out. Like,
their hands are so useless. Their hands are useless to such a degree that they have evolved so that their feet do everything, even to the point that she has a carpal tunnel bandage on her ankle, which I thought was hilarious.
But I feel like there's that. There's the idea that, I mean, I feel like this kind of gets into the, like, well, if you'll accept anything kind of logic. That, like, you should have to accept everything.
Yes.
And, like, I think here's the reality is, like, whenever you get into everything is everything and nothing means anything and you're getting into this weird nihilism, then what are you working towards? Like, if you don't have goals, if you don't have morals, if you don't have ideals, then what do you even have to point yourself towards? Like, what it ends up creating is the nihilism, which is the donut that the daughter's constantly going into, because I told you I have a friend and her daughter was taught this in school. I mean, I just read a statistic that 1 in 3 high school students is part of the LGBTQ bullshit.
Right. So, like, well, one of our daughter's friends legitimately
who's 10 years old, mind you.
Yeah,
she decided 10. That she's a lesbian, and it's like what? Like
at 10.
At 10.
Which is 4th grade.
Right.
Which I guess if you're fairly precocious, like, you could have a boyfriend in the 4th grade. Right. Well, I guess in this case a girlfriend. But...
Right, but, like, I remember, like, when I had girlfriends, quote unquote, in grade school, you just, like, the only thing that we did, like, as I recall, and again, like, this would have been, like, the early 90s.
Sure, you held hands?
You didn't even hold hands. You're just like, you're my girlfriend. And then, like, when you were on, like, the playground, you'd play tag, and you'd kind of pick on them a little bit more. Like, you would actually, like, I remember we'd play tag, and you'd push them a little bit harder because... Like, you didn't know what the fuck to do.
Sure.
Like I had no idea what sex was. I thought kissing was gross. But,
right, which, again, like, our daughter is still in the, like, kissing is gross, and yet...
Yeah, but...
Like, her friend, who's the exact same age...
Oh, yeah, total lesbian, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, like...
Right. But...
And the weird thing is, like, if you want to decide this at 16 or 18 or 21, like, okay, fine, because you have an idea, but, like, at 10? Like...
Right, but, like, what's also weird to me is, like, I just remember, like, when I was that age, you think you're, like, Superman or Spider-Man or something.
Right, you're still in the, like, G.I. Joe, Barbie, like, I'm the guy that I saw, like, I'm Leo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like, I'm whatever.
And, like, and at that age, your parents kind of look at you like you're not really a Ninja Turtle, and you're not, you can't, like, there's no path or, like, college to go to become a Ninja Turtle.
Sure. Well, unless you're in the movie. Because if you're in this movie, you could choose the reality where instead of having hot dog fingers, you are a mutant turtle.
Right.
If you're in this movie.
Of course. I mean, you know, we want to be inclusive.
Right.
So, I mean, but, like, the thing is like, my parents were a little, like, pushback, like, we need you to come a little bit more into, like, reality here.
Right.
Because the idea of objectivism existed when I was a child.
Right. Like, that's like, the whole thing of this movie was just what the fuck after what the fuck. Like, it was just a constant, like, I don't understand. And then it really ends with the daughter being a pick-me girl. Right. Which is, like, because the whole movie, the daughter spends the entire movie telling mom, like, everything is nothing and nothing is everything and why do anything if nothing means anything, which is a very... It sounds stupid, even me just saying it. Sure. You know, like, everything is nothing and nothing is everything. That is ridiculous. But then at the end of the movie, she's like, well, why, like, in a very self-deprecating way, she's like, well, why would you, you know, choose to be here with me if you could be grand somewhere else? And it's a very, like, pick me. And the mom is like, well, because I choose to suffer with you here. Which I guess, if you're talking about, like, a love movie and a parental whatever... movie where, you know, one parent, like, the parent is trying to accept the child and the child is going off, like, there's plenty of movies about that. There's plenty of dynamics where you know, families, like, the family business, I don't want to go into the family business, that's fine, I'm going to love you for who you are, but, like, this is the everything is nothing and the nothing is everything. It is the exact same thing that the daughter did, because she said, well, why would you pick me, but I want you to pick me, but you shouldn't pick me. Like, it doesn't make sense for you to pick me, but I'm going to murder the multiverse if you don't pick me. Again, which is all very just nonsensical nonsense.
Right, like there's no actual stakes to anything.
Right.
You have everything is everything. I mean, like what it is, if you choose everything, you actually choose nothing.
Right.
Like the thing about life is that you have a finite amount of actual decisions to make.
Right.
And then like there's a cost to deter. Like once you make a decision, like I married my wife, and like if we were to split up, like there's a sunk cost into everything I put into that. So like to undo that decision, like there's just a lot of like familial would have to break up. And like also I should also point out that there's a divorce going on in the movie.
Oh, that was another thing. Like the constant drama that was going on between the mom and the husband was that the husband was trying to divorce the mom, which, like, the dad, let's be honest, didn't have as much of a backstory. He didn't have any backstory, let's be honest.
Right.
The dad had no backstory. The backstory was only for the mom and the daughter a little bit, but really it was not even about the mom's backstory so much as her what is it? Her potential, the possibility for her potential.
I feel like the purpose of the dad like kept fluctuating between one of two things. He was inept and the cause of all of the misery of the main female. One,
right, he was the cause of the thing.
Right, like he was the catalyst for it because she chose him and she chose poorly, which kind of I felt like in a weird way crossed with the like, well, if there's no downside to being a lesbian, but if you decide to be straight, watch out for men because
because the only reality where the mom was happy were realities where she had female companionship.
Right.
Which I was like, okay, so you're really pushing this lesbian agenda.
This idea of a cis thing, and also the idea that you like. I feel like the other like underlying mission is children are the worst, and you're better if you are a lesbian, so you don't have to worry about children. You can focus on yourself.
Really, yes, because again, the only universes where she was happy were either universes where she had female companionship and no children.
Right.
Yeah, like it really was like it was very pointed without literally flashing the words on the screen, which were men will keep you down, men will make you miserable, and men will leave you when shit hits the fan. Because really
they're inept and weak men. Because I think that's the other part of that is when you choose weak men who are not manly, then you get that kind of spinelessness.
Right, but that was the thing. Like
I feel like the husband, like there should just be a flashing thing across his head that says feminist.
Well, that to me was the most frustrating part. Was that it was very pointed in that this was his dream. He pursued her. He convinced her, and then
she gave up everything.
And
for
she
him.
gave up all of her limitless potential for him. But then, right before their business is about to be repoed, he serves her with divorce papers.
Right.
In not just this reality, but multiple realities.
Sure.
And so it was very pointed in that, like, everything means nothing and nothing means everything, but choose to support your daughter who is being
the worst.
The worst. Like, she is on such a hysterical tirade temper tantrum that she's, destroying the entire multiverse. But also, you can only be happy with other women.
Well, there's that. There's a couple more points, which is... One, like, the daughter... Oh, excuse me, I got away from this pointer, but I had a friend whose daughter, who's taught in the public school system, is taught this thing of existence rape, which is just... I can't even believe that this is being taught to children, but that, like, of course you're suffering because you didn't choose to be here, so any, like discomfort that you're having is really your parents' fault, because they're the ones that chose to have you.
Chose to have you, yeah.
So therefore, it's all of your parents' fault for the thing that you're experiencing. So, like, I mean, what the fuck? But like,
the flip side to that is I've heard the kind of expanded version of that argument, which is because your parents decided to have you, not only is your suffering and all of your your trauma as a result of your parents' choice, because they chose to have you, they should give you the best of everything. Like, they should put you before and above themselves.
Right.
Because they existence raped you and forced you to be here. And the fact that your parents would be so selfish as to put their own needs first is really, like, they're now even worse than worse because They're responsible for your trauma, but they're also not putting you first all the time.
Right.
It's basically entitlement.
I was just watching, Jordan Peterson was talking about this, and he's like, here's the thing. When you have people who are, like, going under, like, just sucking and, like, committed to nihilism, committed to going into that nothingness, because that's really what existentialism is. It's nothingness, it pulls you in, it sucks you in. And here's the thing, like, I can try and save you, but you have to want to be saved. And like there's a thing with lifeguards where it's like, yes, we're going to have this contract where I'm going to try and save your life. But if you try and drown us both, I'm going to let you die. And I'm going to not, like, lose into it. And I think as a parent, like, I see so many parents whose children are in public schools and they're going through all of this existential bullshit that just, like, children are not, they don't have the life experience, they don't have the knowledge, and if all you're being exposed all day, every day is this crap, they're going to go into the abyss. Sure. And I feel like parents, of course they love their children, but it's like there is this need, this incessant need from the children for the parents to agree and accept this worldview, and if not... And follow, or else we're both going to go in the abyss together. And I think, as a parent, like, I love our daughter. I'm not, think, Christ, she's nothing like this. But if she were, like, I feel like you have to go, like, you drown alone. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing, like, I feel like the number one thing that scares the crap out of me in modernism and in the modern church is the notion of love. Because you always hear this now, love is love, Jesus is love, God is love. So therefore, if you don't... But then they redefine love in a non-biblical term to have this LGBT, well... Everything is fine. You have to accept everything. And you have to accept everything. You have to love the sin. You have to rationalize everything, which is basically what this movie was all about. Right. I'm going to rationalize every single version of reality, so much so that I'm going to commit to believing that all of the realities are real. And the same. And they're happening all at the same time. And there's no difference between anything. And there's no difference between any of them, which is weird because it's like there's no difference between any of them, and there's no choices. And there's no difference between your choices. Because the realities are based upon choice, but there's no difference between choices, so there's no difference in realities. Right, but then at the same time, but why would you choose to be in this reality when you could be in that reality where you're better? Which immediately just disqualifies the entire argument. Right. But you can't ever get there because then it's like, well, wait, hold on. If one reality is better, then choices are good and bad. But then it just goes back to the like, well, no, there's no good and bad choices. So you just get in this weird spiral bullshit of like, what the fuck? Right. Yeah, it's just meant to confuse you and make you feel like all that you can do. Because really, that was the ending of the movie. When she chose her daughter, quote unquote, is really she was accepting her daughter. Right. Well, she's accepting I'm going to accept my plight, like my fate. I'm going to accept my fate, which is I'm going to be with my buffoon husband who does buffoonery. Right. I'm going to stay with my daughter who will... continue to make bad decisions. Well, not just continue. And I really actually... It was kind of confusing because I almost thought that the movie might make like a good point when the mom kind of goes on her little... like her little monologue where she was like, why would you do these things and seek me out knowing that you were doing things that I didn't like? Mm-hmm. There was it was like a 2-minute little scene, and she kind of really hones in on like, you made decisions, you don't call me either, communication is a two-way street, like, so they like, it's like they tried right to like do the thing, but it ended up just being like a checkbox of like I'm going to stand my ground, and I'm going to there's no point because there's no objective reality. Right. But it was like, I'm going to try to hold on to reality, and I'm going to try to hold you responsible and accountable for your decisions. But then, the daughter makes puppy eyes at the mom, and the mom says, you know what? Rationality and life sucks, we live here now. Yeah, life sucks, we live here now. I'm not going to hold you responsible because love is love, and I'm going to be nice. Well, and I'm going to continue my life with you because that's the nice, loving thing to do. Well, I feel like here's the other part of this that's just crazy to me, right? Is like this movie, I feel like gets away with this message because like, I'm going to say white people. First things first, like if you I've said this to you, I haven't said this on air. I feel like the term white people is the N-word for European people, because I'm Irish and Jewish. I don't know what the fuck a white person is. I fucking don't. I know what my family's like, and then when I see people from other areas, or like the proverbial white people, like, they fucking me. It has nothing to do with me.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with my culture or my upbringing or whatever. So like this idea that I even read this in a sociology book, that white culture isn't actually a culture.
I hate that. Like, I really hate that on such a level of, like, it doesn't make sense, because, like, I'm a history person, but more specifically, I'm a, like, archaeology person. Like, right. I love reading about history and archaeology and, like, things that they're finding and whatnot. And more specifically, like, I really love Norse culture, sure. Scottish and Irish and, like, Scandinavian. Mm-hmm. And that is so different
than, like, French or
than
Italian,
or Italian
or Polish, like, or Eastern European.
Yeah, and so when they're like, well, that's white culture, I'm like, well, hold on, like, are you talking about,
right.
like, Germans, or are you talking about people from Wales, or are you talking about,
right.
you know...
Sure. I mean, even the Egyptians were white, especially, like, the nobility back in the day.
Sure,
but,
which
like,
is another thing that's going on right now. Like, Cleopatra was black. No, she wasn't.
No.
Like, sucks to suck.
Yeah, I mean, but whatever. Like, I'm not trying to get into that part. But, like, anyway, so this idea of, like, the white culture, but, like, we've been trained into, like, what I'm going to call it is the suburban white mom.
Sure.
Where, like, the inroad into, like, wooing them is that we've convinced everyone who could be considered white that they're white, therefore they don't have a culture, so therefore we need to seek out the culture and wisdom of brown folk or yellow folk or whatever. So, like, you push this thing in as, I would call this, like, it tries very hard to be an Asian movie and trying to bring in, like, it checks all of the boxes of, like, the liberal idea of, like, we need to really care about immigrants. We need to really care about all... Which also...
Which is funny that it's stereotypical in that it's an Asian family who owns a laundromat.
Right, of course. Like. But
it's okay when you're doing stereotypes in a positive way?
Well, in a liberal way. Because here's the thing. Like, as much as they try and do this to show how not racist they are, they do it in the most racist way possible.
Because not only is it an immigrant family who's operating a coin laundromat, it's also an immigrant family who's incompetent at operating the coin laundromat. They're going bankrupt, and their auditor is a white lady.
Right.
Nothing racist to see here. You know,
right.
Don't mind us.
Right. So there's that. But then, like, there's also the other part of this where, like, they're coming from China.
Right.
Who fundamentally is against the LGBTQ movement.
Right.
So, like, this movie that's supposed to be about all of, like, we're really going to talk about...
progressivism.
Like, Chinese culture here. Like, basically what they're telling people is, you should be like the Chinese and be gay. And it's like... In China, they're like, kill these motherfuckers. Like, this movie isn't going to show in China. Fuck that bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like anybody who's, like, fresh off the boat from China is looking at this like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
nothing to do with me.
Nothing to do. Yeah, like, it really is just, like, the movie is just mind-blowingly stupid. I mean, seriously... Yeah. When I just still can't get over the fucking statues up the ass kung fu fighting. Because they, like, it was a prerequisite. They couldn't kung fu fight without said statue up the ass. And, like, that was ridiculous. But also the, like, forced BDSM content in the movie. Because, like, we didn't know what we were getting into. So there was, like, several points in the movie where I legitimately had to cover our daughter's eyes and be like, you can't watch this part because they're beating each other up with dildos.
Was it an R-rated movie?
I don't know.
I mean...
But it didn't read that way.
No.
It didn't read that way.
None of the stuff on there. It's like when you take your kid, like, come to the Pride Parade, bring the children, and then it's like two dudes in BDSM gear, like, whipping and fucking each other.
Well, like,
what the fuck?
That's in the movie. So, like, there's one section in the movie where they're, like, beating each other up with, like, dildos that are, like, stupid long. And then there's, like, another section in the movie where she's, like doing this warped reality thing where she has a ball gag in the guy's mouth and then is, like, whipping him in two different realities. And one, she's, like, in a dominatrix outfit. And I'm like, again, like, what's with this forced sexual content in a movie? Because it's a fight. Like, let me be clear. This is a this is a kind of like Bruce Lee, what's the Jackie Chan like fight scene choreography.
Well, it's meant to be just ridiculous and over the top.
But then you have this like shoehorned sexual content. Like, explain to me, like I was 5, when Jackie Chan has ever had a fight scene and they shoehorned in sexual content. Because that's what this was styled after. This was styled after, like...
They have done stuff where, like, you know, like, he'll take the girl's robe to fight off and then, like,
sure.
he covers up and, like, whatever.
Yeah, but that's, like... I mean, when I say tame, in relation to this...
Sure.
Like, those are 2 completely different universes.
Right.
You know, like, he didn't take the robe or the, you know, the belt off the robe and then, like... motorboat her boobs, like
sure,
or like flash her or like tie her up.
Use a sex toy and shove it up her ass.
Seriously, like what the fuck, like.
And this won Best Picture,
and it won. You told me it won Best Picture, Best all
Actor,
the things,
Best Actress, Best all the things.
This is trash. It's a trash movie.
Right.
Like the idea, Yeah, like, just the idea that anybody, and it really doesn't read that way. It doesn't read like it's a family-friendly movie. Like, it's not like, oh, you can take your 6-year-old.
Yeah.
But it's like a quirky kind of, like, altered reality. You know what it reads like? It reads like Doctor Strange. It reads kind of like a Doctor Strange movie where you're like, okay, like it's multiverse, Doctor Strange. Like, I could take my, 9, 10 if 12. I'm okay with violence. Like, right. I could take my, kid to see a Doctor Strange movie. And then you walk into this and you're like, how do I
explain this?
Yeah, how do I backpedal out of this? Like,
right.
this was awful.
It was. I mean. Literally one of the worst movies I've ever seen. One of the worst.
I mean, I will say this. At some point during the movie, it got to such a ridiculous state of just ridiculousness that I was legitimately, like, just belly laughing. Because it's kind of like the...
Well, here's the thing.
It's like, what could you possibly... How much more stupid
I mean, it is stupid, but, like, there is a point where it beats you over the head with it, and it is pleasant. Like, there's a pleasant stupidness to it, to where, like, it's easier to just, like...
laugh?
Like, I mean, I almost feel like it is. It's like you're getting raped, like, forcibly by the dildo in the film, which is the nonsense, and it's easier if you just kind of relax and let it go in, because, like, if you fight it, like you're going to tear something. You know what I mean? And that's really what it is. It's like, just let us inject you with this nonsense, but just let it go.
Just let it go.
Just let it go.
Just like, relax.
And it's like you're in a German Scheisse shop with, like, fucking things all the way in your face, and you're just like, oh, God.
It's just the most ridiculous movie
I've ever seen. It's like Europe trip, thunder sex, and they got like the fucking,
I seriously, I can't. The fact that I can't get over the fucking statues. Like, I really, you know why I can't get over it? Because it wasn't just like a single attempt. I don't know if you were like watching the screen, but like, it wasn't just a single attempt. It was literally, can I have the water bottle?
Sure.
So he's like, he has his underwear on, right? And he's trying to, like, impale himself. And then she moves it. And she moves it, like, half a dozen times. And he keeps trying to impale himself. So this goes on for, like, 45 seconds to a minute. But it still wasn't enough. They then had to get a naked from the bottom down actor to then, like, cannonball himself onto a bigger statue. And I'm like, why did you have to make this a thing? Like, this is a solid 2 to 4 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
Where you just could not let this joke go.
I mean, like I said, it's not unpleasant of a film if you are stupid and willing to, like, accept nonsense. But, like, for those of us who live in the real world, who realize that you need to do things, like this is the worst kind of thing where you're like, it's just like the movie, and you just got to accept the big ass ramming that you're all going to get. So
I don't know. The only good, like, positive thing that I have to say about the movie were costumes. Like, the costumes were cool.
Yeah,
like the crazy chick, the crazy girl. She had some like cyberpunk Asian punk pop. Like
those gays are flamboyant.